I'm very fortunate today to be interviewing Kevin Bowler. He's the Chief Executive of Tourism New Zealand. Kevin, what an amazing organisation and what an amazing job. Tell me, in terms of cultural capability, it's a bit of a no-brainer, isn't it?
It is. I mean, our purpose in life is to introduce more overseas people to New Zealand, to get them excited about coming to New Zealand and to encourage them to come here. So obviously we're having to think about communications in the context of their language, their culture, but we also employ a lot of overseas people. We have, I checked it this morning, we have 18 different nationalities on our staff across 14 offices. So we are a culturally diverse organisation.
So how do you grow that cultural capability? I mean, there was a time when a lot of our tourists came from Anglo-Saxon English-speaking countries. I mean, frankly, you know, they are coming from a range of much more different and diverse countries now.
Oh, definitely. We're seeing a huge change, mate. We've got growth right across the board. So some of those traditional countries are still growing, but Asia's definitely the new centrepiece for economic growth, for prosperity, and of course for travel. So particularly China, we're seeing a huge number of more Chinese people coming to New Zealand. I think if I go back to 2010, we had 80,000. We're now at 380,000. And I genuinely think we'll get to 1 million in the next 4 or 5 years.
So let me ask you two big questions. First of all, how do you ensure that your staff and yourself have that cultural capability to make sure we're really maximising the number of tourists that can come to New Zealand? And secondly, how do you manage diverse staff from 18 different countries? Around how many offices?
I think 18 nationalities in about 14 countries.
14 countries, right.
Well, I don't think you ever get there. I think it's a journey, and I think it's about consciousness and being aware of the fact that as New Zealanders, we communicate differently between ourselves than we need to operate in a more international context. In fact, we had a forum in Asia recently. It was in China, as a matter of fact, but we had all of our Asian staff come to this forum, and we asked them, how do we work together? Are we working together well? And the first message was very positive, but then they kind of quietly just suggested some things we could do a little bit better. Talking a little bit more slowly, easing back on the jokes that they don't understand, following up in writing afterwards so they have time to absorb information, and using lots of different platforms for communication. So it was really important that we had some verbal, some face-to-face. We use video communication a lot between our offices and peer-to-peer video, and we also try and travel a lot, so we have presence in the offices offshore.
So in terms of building that cultural capability then amongst your staff, so that they can understand what the consumer, visitor, tourist wants, how do you do that?
Well, we do that in lots of different ways. We do reasonably traditional market research in all of our prioritised markets. We spend a lot of time with travel agents. We train and develop travel agents' ability to sell New Zealand. We familiarise them with New Zealand by bringing them here, and we do the same with media. So we're constantly engaging with overseas-based professionals who can help with our marketing tasks. And we're testing a lot of our advertising in those markets and getting some pretty clear feedback on what works and what didn't. And one of the things I remember really clearly was we talked about New Zealand being this beautiful place and how you could get away from where you live to come to our place, and we thought that was pretty good. When we played that to audiences offshore, they were saying, well, yeah, your place is different, but we really like and we're really proud of our place. So don't try and make comparisons, just promote what New Zealand is all about, and we'll come to our own conclusions as to how that will fit into our lifestyles.
So tell me about your own journey. You are in this pivotal leadership position, and you've been incredibly successful. Congratulations on the China Amway contract.
Yeah, isn't that incredible?
Amazing.
Yeah.
So tell me about your own journey, because you're really acing this now. You're succeeding in that space, and it's not an easy space.
Well, my journey's pretty traditional. Right? My grandparents were born in New Zealand, so I was born in the Waikato, brought up in a pretty traditional Hamilton kind of family. I think that probably the thing that I've grasped the most, which is helping me in this space, is just never take for granted. Always think about the context that you're communicating in and keep learning. So from my point of view, I think the thing that I've got the most, that I keep reminding myself is just because I've been to a place a lot of times doesn't mean I understand it. And that just to keep learning, to keep listening to people, and occasionally check in with others around me to make sure that are we really getting our message across? Are we hearing back from people and what they really mean, and not just taking for granted necessarily the words we hear?
So that openness is incredibly important and not making assumptions. But talk to me now about New Zealand Inc.
Yep.
Tourists come because they say we're friendly. They like New Zealanders. How do we keep it that way? Because, you know, there's also a bit just bubbling beneath the surface there about having all these people that don't look like us, can't tell whether they're tourists, can't tell whether they're New Zealanders, can't tell whether they're students.
Yeah. I think it's a real challenge for us. It's a real watch out for our sector. So we attract 3.2 million visitors a year at the moment. One of the pressure points for us is over summer when the vast majority want to come to New Zealand. So over that time, the country is under a lot of pressure in a number of different places.
At the same time as Kiwis are out and about and enjoying the environment.
Yeah. So I won't say for a second we take it for granted that it's going to be straightforward, but we do have to continue to grow the industry in a sustainable way, and we need to bring New Zealanders along for the journey. So we've done some Mood of the Nation research just recently, and over half of New Zealanders think we have about the right number of international visitors. They get the fact that they generate jobs and wealth for New Zealanders, but there is a growing small minority that are starting to go, well, look, do we really want these visitors? So part of what we've got to do is we've got to communicate what the benefits are. It's more than 100,000 Kiwis in jobs because of international visitors. That's growing really strongly because of the success. It's foreign exchange, $12 billion a year. And these numbers don't mean much to Kiwis, but when you say, look, it's 100,000 families are prospering because of tourism, I think people start to get their mind around that. But we've got to grow at a pace that New Zealand can cope with as well.
So I think at the moment there's been quite fast growth, hasn't there? At the same time as we've also had a lot of internal migration.
Yeah.
At the same time as international students have also grown quite quickly. Yeah. So what do you think that means? Because you've seen the Stats New Zealand projections. I mean, 2025, Asians will start to overtake Maori as the biggest ethnic group. By 2038, we're going to have 51% identifying themselves as predominantly Asian, then Maori, then Pacific.
Well, I think it's great. Personally, I embrace it because I look at New Zealand, and I can still, I'm not so old, I can't remember what it was like growing up here. It was pretty one-dimensional.
Yes, I remember. I remember.
Well, I mean, I just walked here from my office in Auckland, and walking through the streets of Auckland now, it's such a multicultural, dynamic place. The range of food, the influence even on Western food of Asian culture and Asian cuisine is fantastic. So I think it's a great thing, but I do think parts of New Zealand are moving with that change more quickly than other parts.
Understood. So look to camera and give your advice. There's lots of leaders out there who are in charge of organisations, and they're saying to themselves, my God, you know, the customs have changed, my staffing's changed. How do I become a culturally competent leader in terms of managing my staff and moving my organisation forward to keep pace with the change so we don't get left behind?
Well, May, I think the key thing is, the key advice I would give is keep learning. Have an open mind. Be conscious of the fact you probably don't have all the answers, and listen to those around you who have got a bit more experience. And don't be afraid to learn and to ask the silly questions. And I think one of the things that can be really useful is having a really clearly articulated purpose. So we have only 3 values in our organisation. We have a value of global whānau, which is one global team, which brings everyone together. We have a value around action speaking louder, which just simply says get on with it. And being a government organisation, we thought that was pretty important. And we have another one, which is an unwavering belief in New Zealand. No cynicism or sarcasm. We absolutely have to believe in what we're doing. So those 3 things guide us, and I think we've had those now for about 4 years, and we repeat them all the time. People really get it, and I think that just brings us together as a community with differences and diversity within that community of staff. But I think the key thing is just keep learning, keep asking questions, and make sure that you have people coming with you on the journey that you're embarking on.
Yes. Thank you very much for that.
It's a pleasure.